Okay, for this video, we are going to talk about social media writing and editing. Um, this is a pretty critical part for your roles in the newsrooms and part of what we do as audience engagement specialists or um, digital producers, whatever your role might be titled. Social media is going to have an impact on that. So, why we care about this? This is a big way that people find our content. Twitter and Facebook are kind of like become the home pages for some people for news. In some cases, social drives more traffic than Google. We're seeing a little bit more of a resurgence here from Google. And as the algorithms continue to shift on Facebook and Twitter, you start to see a little bit of a drop there. But it's still a significant way that we see traffic, especially at the local newsroom level. We're able to reach new audiences and serve more people when we are on social media. So people share things there. It's just a more social environment, and we see our content get spread more broadly through there. And shares are really the new distribution. Instead of passing on the copy of the newspaper, they're sharing the link on social media, passing on a post from Twitter or Facebook by retweeting or sharing directly to their own followers. Things about social media, we want to make sure that we are still standing by the fundamentals. So we verify all information before sharing. We don't want to make a mistake on social. We want to make sure we're customizing the message for the platform. There's different needs depending on what platform you're talking about. And so you want to make sure you're tailoring your message to hit the right points and attract the right audience on the right platform. You want what you're presenting to them to be easy for the readers to digest and understand, respond. So being clear in your post, but also making sure that the link that they click on is clear and they can read it and respond to it if they are reading the whole story. So we have different goals for social post. So sometimes it's just reach, just creating awareness around something. Maybe there's not a link. Maybe it's just encouraging people to tune in to a show later, or talking about an event that's coming up, or just doing an informational campaign about who your newsroom is. Click-throughs are really one of the primary ways that we are using social media. So we're trying to get people to click on our post and open the story and read it on our site, or watch the video, or otherwise give us something beyond just what's happening on Facebook. Actually leave the social platform and look at it on another outlet or our own website. Sometimes it's just getting people to share, like, react, get some kind of response in from people, trying to get people going, because it might show that a story has wider interest. People might share a greater connection to it. However, I will say shares do not always correlate with clicks. Photos and videos tend to get more shares, and then stories, especially because they're just like single hold this, like, here's this great photo, or here's this video that's really fascinating, and you see that in your own feed of what people are sharing. Using, especially on Twitter, using tags and finding influencers that might notice posts, might be willing to share them, can help continue to build on that share culture of social media. Comments or contributions. So we are asking a question. We want a response from our users and our readers, and we want them to weigh in on something. We want to make sure to use this carefully so that we are not always, so that when we ask for responses, we are utilizing those responses or responding to them, and we're paying attention to them. We want to have a healthy conversation and just asking a question and then leaving and not paying any attention to the comments is not how you have a conversation. So be cognizant when you're asking a question that you are prepared to engage in conversation with the comments. When you're writing for Twitter, Twitter's all about urgency, and emotion can really play into that. On Twitter, you can use hashtags and you can tag people specifically. You don't want to overload. You want to be careful about anything with a political overtone. Use hashtags that people are already using around an event, but make sure that it's not like GOP for Trump kind of hashtags, but maybe more of a Trump in KC kind of a hashtag. So you just got to think about how you're appearing even in hashtags. You can look for state and city agencies, nonprofits, MU departments that might retweet if they're tagged in it, if there's potential influencers, making sure that they actually have an active account that they might share it. Don't waste your characters or your time tagging for someone that does not regularly engage on Twitter. Here's an example of what it could look like to write for Twitter. So we don't want to be overly clickbaity, but we do want to encourage people to follow to our website or tune into our show to see the rest of the story. We don't want to give the whole story away just in one tweet. So here was how it was written initially. Understaffing in 911 butt dials contribute to increased police response times in Columbia. But if we look at other ways to frame this, we could say police response times have doubled in 5 years. Find out why. Are butt dials really making it harder for police to respond to 911 calls? So you see how the one that went up actually gives away the story, and the other two, the way they're framed, kind of leaves the reader wanting more. And so you want to think about those things without being overly clickbaity. Another thing to pay attention to is writing short. And this is a good example of kind of using multiple sentences that are short and to the point, focuses on the wow factor to get something live. Having a good visual attached is really a great way to get your post more attention. My pet peeve as a user is websites or Twitter accounts that rely on the Twitter card. I'll show you what the Twitter card looks like. That's when it shows the preview of the story, so it's showing the headline and kind of more about the story. But when I see the tweet without that, then I don't know who Noah Kelleher is. I don't know where this crime scene happens. I don't know where the officers are. This means absolutely nothing to me. But when I can actually see the headline, then it's like, okay, the man charged with murder in connection with something happening in Pettis County. That tells me more. But because of my settings on TweetDeck and just the way that a lot of people consume Twitter, it is not a guarantee that they're going to see that headline. So you can't assume that. You got to give them enough information in the tweet that you don't leave them wondering what is happening here. Another example so ABC 17 is on the scene working to get more information. I don't know where that scene is. I don't know what they're reporting from. I don't know any of that. So you need enough context to give people at least an idea of what's going on. This one was one of ours that maybe gives a little bit of a clue when they talk about the globe, but it just kind of I don't know who this student is. I don't know why he said this. I have no context. But if I know that the Gentry's Geography B king keeps his crown for now, then that gives me enough context. So, but I can't survive off of that alone. So making sure you have enough context in that tweet. So without the headline, I would probably give more context. A Gentry middle school student, in the Geography B something to give it some more context in that tweet. Here's one that 3-point shots. Okay, so I know that's basketball, but but is that men's? Is it women's? They're talking about Missouri, so I assume it's Mizzou. I just don't have a lot of context. Even with the Twitter card here, I'd say this is kind of a miss on the headline too. The only reason I know it's men's is because of the photo. But again, without seeing that headline, you just don't have enough context, and most people are just going to keep scrolling rather than be intrigued enough to click it. I'm going to skip that and that. So Facebook post, there are some basic approaches. So a fact frame, so utilizing not repeating the headline, actually supporting it, giving some more content to add more context to the headline. So you know that on Facebook, if you're adding a link, that they're going to see the headline, and they're going to see part for the Missouri and part of the summary. So for those things, you want to make sure you're not repeating them. You could add a little bit more context. Maybe you're asking a question, but this, you see, there's that extra nugget of information. A majority of city council members seem to think so, and they acted on it Monday night. So you know it happened Monday. Kind of what's they're talking about, downtown development, that kind of thing. Piquing interest with a compelling quote, fact, or curiosity. So again, that's similar to the fraternity, 14 fraternities on probation, 3 suspended. So that's kind of giving you the basic, like, shocking numbers around this. Asking for responses. Again, if we want a discussion, then ask a question if we're willing to be part of the conversation. A lot of things have shifted. No one ever really knows how the Facebook algorithm is working, but I still follow these general rules that our first goal is quality over quantity. So we want to make sure that what we're posting is our best content, that we aren't just posting stuff just to post something to fill a slot. We want to think about what our best content is and putting that out there and what is of most interest to our readers. Our second goal would be to encourage conversation and sharing. We know that those things help boost the profile of a social post. So that would be the second goal here. So here's the kind of basics of writing for social or for Facebook. You want to write short. You actually want to be shorter sometimes than even you are on Twitter. You don't want to see that, like, see more and make people click to see long. This post is too long. For us, we have some settings already in place that you should see, something that tells you what section it is or the photo from the story itself. If you see this building photo, you know something might be messed up with the sections, or it might be an opportunity to upload a new photo. You can, in Social News Desk, you have the ability to edit these summaries so that they're not cut off. So that's something you can do both at QEMU and Missourian. Use Social News Desk and can utilize that. So here's a better one. So 40 to 100 characters is kind of what we're shooting for on Facebook. It's real tempting to write long, but it works out way better if you go short. There's a visual here. The summary's not cut off. You've got the information that added content beyond what was available in the headline. Another thing is that you don't want to tell the whole story. So if I know in this example, Willard Meyer was driving southbound on Route O, okay, I know who the guy was. I know he was on Route O and near Swan Road. And then this says he was from Jefferson City and he died in the accident. So, like, why do I need to click on that? I already know exactly what happened, how he lost control, and what happened to him. So you don't want to tell everything in your post. You want to actually give people a reason to click and get more from the story itself. So we should be driving them beyond just the social platform. Viewability, if you remember, tweets have a shorter window and less chance to be seen. So frequency can be important there, and time of day is really critical. You can share a story 2 or 3 times with different approach is, and it isn't going to bother your followers generally. Make sure you're changing what the tweet says. Twitter does not let you post the exact same thing repeatedly. Facebook posts have a longer shelf life, and they'll resurface in feeds long after you post it. So it doesn't necessarily matter the time of day. It's prioritizing the post based on what you've seen. So engaging content is the best. You want to think carefully about how you are resharing a story so that people aren't seeing it over and over in their post just because we kept sharing it the same day. So we want to spread those out a little bit more. When we talk about engaging content, this example from NPR is kind of highlighting some of the things that they found to be the most engaging on their social platforms. One thing I always note when I show this slide is that this doesn't mean that we have to like write every story to fit one of these 9 scenarios, but it does mean that when we write the social post, we can frame it in a particular way. And we can also look for trends of our stories of what works well for us and what seems to resonate the most. Breaking news is obviously one of the most engaging, and being quick with it and noting that it's breaking gives it a better shot of getting attention. Our happy stories can do really well, and so kind of taking a lighter approach in the post to note that. Crowd pleasers, for the Missourian, we know that that is most often business stories. People are curious about where new businesses are opening or closing, that kind of thing. So we know that making sure those get posted is important. News explainers, when there's something major happening, maybe in the legislature or nationally, and we do a localization or try to explain a little bit more, that can be a really great way to engage with users. So a couple of things, because we've already talked about social media voice, so I skipped over those slides. But you do want to think about consistency. So we try, the Missourian has a specific schedule that we're working from. We don't want to go days without posting. We want to make sure that we're a regular presence in our users' feeds. We do want to pay really close attention to what else is happening. So if there is breaking news or something is unfolding, you might want to go quiet, or you might want to be careful about using that lighthearted story in that moment. So we can always look ahead at what's scheduled and see if we need to adjust for breaking news. Just keeping it as simple and using conversational language is really important. When you're engaging in conversation, you want to respond to any questions or comments as a person, not as an institution. Even if we're posting from the Missourian Facebook page, we would still sign off. This is Elizabeth Stevens, Director of Community Outreach, so that they can put a name to it. We want to post corrections as quickly as we can. If we notice them, there's a short window that I will allow us to delete a tweet. Beyond that, then we would reply to the original with the correction so that they travel together in a thread. On Facebook, we can edit the content in the post, but we want to comment if there is a specific correction we've made, just to make sure that people know that we've fixed something. Stop doing these things. These are kind of the guidelines of what not to do when you're writing for social. Don't write long Facebook posts. Really think about that 100-character limit. Being careful about how often you post an article to Facebook. Don't want to do it in the same day by any means, maybe in the same week, but you want to, again, think about how the first post did and if you could actually improve on that. Stop overlooking tagging opportunities, so don't miss out on a chance to tag an influencer or an organization that would likely retweet it. So pay attention to those things. And that is the end of the lecture part of this video. You'll take the quiz following this, and we will do some exercises when you are in class.